Hey guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts. Thank you for joining me in the studio today. You know, at First Place Auto Parts, especially with our YouTube channel, typically we're concentrating on putting on performance parts or reviewing parts that we bolt onto American muscle cars, what we sell at First Place Auto Parts. Things to make your car go faster, stop harder, or to restore it altogether. But in today's video, what we're going to do is we're talking NASCAR. Look, I've been a NASCAR fan for a long time. They've lost me a little bit lately, but the pinnacle for me was in the mid-'80s. But the reality is that a lot of neat stuff has come out of NASCAR in regards to our development of the vehicles that we drive every day. Well, today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the top 5 performing NASCAR vehicles ever made. Look, these cars are so iconic that it forced NASCAR in many cases to change their rules just to slow the cars down so the competitors can be more competitive. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to identify the top 5 performing NASCAR vehicles ever. We're going to go all the way back from the 50s. We're going to end up somewhere in the mid-90s and see if there's any of the cars on this list match your list as well. So guys, today we're talking the 5 fastest and most influential NASCAR vehicles ever to grace a racetrack. Hey guys, if you like today's video, please consider subscribing to the First Place Auto Parts YouTube channel. We're going to continually be adding new videos every week where we show you how to put new parts on. We take a look at the latest parts that are available, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I'm pretty sure you're going to want to see. NASCAR as we know it today, that started off as what we called stock car racing. And it was called stock car racing because, well, the cars were stock. Look, moonshiners back in the day, they built hopped up hot rods to keep away from the revenue man. And eventually these guys all wanted to find out who had the fastest car, and races began. It wasn't until Bill France organized all that under the NASCAR name and held that first race on the sandy beaches at Daytona Beach, Florida, that we actually got an organization called NASCAR. But before that, it was just called stock car racing. And the cars were very stock. Look, there wasn't much done to them, but tuners such as Smokey Yunick knew how to extract maximum horsepower out of these cars and make them scream. The OEMs benefited from this by the development of not only the cars, but also the drive trains, the engines in particular. And what would typically race on Sunday would sell on Monday. What you would find racing in the year prior might end up under the hood of a special model the next year. And the first car we're going to take a look at today, which is the epitome of that whole thing, is the number 5 car. Look, it's the 66 through 67 Plymouth Belvedere. It's got the 426 Hemi in it. It was driven by none other than King Richard Petty himself. Look, in 1967, with the Plymouth Belvedere, with the Hemi in it, the King entered 48 of the 49 races. He won 27 of them, which is nothing short of amazing. He had over 40 top 10 finishes. Look, that was a record that would never be achieved again. The car was so dominant that NASCAR first tried to restrict the motor, and then they basically outlawed the Elephant Hemi altogether. And that's why it ends up at number 5. This car was such a pinnacle of performance for its time. Its engine and its drivetrain was so unique and so dominant on the super speedways, NASCAR had to whoa those boys up. And that's why the 1966 to 1967 Plymouth Belvedere with the Hemi engine under the hood and King Richard behind the wheel is our number 5 vehicle. And to find the number 4 car on our list, we go back to when the NASCAR boys were driving through dirt and mud, and they were still stock vehicles. Look, we're talking about a car that was driven by Marshall Teague. It was shaped like a bullet, and it was simply known as the fabulous Hudson Hornet. Thanks to a robust chassis and relatively lightweight compared to other vehicles, the Hudson Hornet was dominant in 1951 with Herb Thomas as the driver when he won the NASCAR Grand National title. Then again in 1952 with Tim Flock behind the wheel, he won the Grand National title. Now in 1953, the Hornet didn't win the Grand National title, but it won 12 races that year, making it one of the most dominant vehicles in early NASCAR history. And before I unveil the number 3 car, guys, I got a bit of a confession. If you hadn't noticed, I'm a bit of a GM guy. Look, I've had some Fords. I even have a Ram truck, so I do like other brands. I have no disparity as far as I just like things that make horsepower and go fast. But the reality is, if I have my druthers, it's going to be a GM power plant. And the number 3 car that's on our list is none other than the 1995 through 99 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Now look, the Monte Carlo of that year, of that era, it owned NASCAR. It won the Winston Cup with Jeff Gordon in 1995, 1997, and 1998. And the Intimidator number 3 Dale Earnhardt won his first Daytona in the car in 1998 as well. The car was aerodynamically very good. Look, there's a lot of things you can do with horsepower, but when you hit 200 miles an hour, you need the car to slip through the wind with the least amount of drag. And the Monte Carlo that was produced in 95 through 99 did just that. It's one of the best looking, in my humble opinion, NASCAR's ever built. And so it's the number 3 car on our list is the 1995 to 1999 Chevy Monte Carlo. Now, when you get to the top 2 most iconic NASCARs ever to grace a racetrack, you've gotten into some rarefied air. There's going to be a reason why they're in the top 2. And the number 2 car is none other than the 87 through 89 Ford Thunderbird driven by Bill Elliott. In 1987, the Ford Thunderbird was super slippery. It was a new body design. And this thing was a super speedway monster. Bill Elliott qualified for the 1987 Talladega 500 at 212 miles an hour. It's a record that still stands for qualifying at Talladega. Later at the Daytona 500, he qualified at 210 miles an hour, and that record still stands for qualifying speed. Look, it was after the 87 season that NASCAR implemented the restrictor plates to slow the cars down. If you remember the 87 Talladega race, it's the race where Bobby Allison basically got sideways and got airborne and took down a big portion of the front straightaway fence between the fans and the racetrack. It was time that NASCAR slowed it down, but the 87 through 89 Ford Thunderbird, it was so slippery, and Bill Elliott was so on his game that it hits the number 2 spot on our all-time most iconic performing NASCAR vehicles of all time. And the number 1 car on our list, and it's been sitting on my tabletop here the whole time, and it's like where things come together and it just makes it right. It's kind of like when peanut butter hits chocolate, and it's no one other than the 69 through 70 Plymouth Superbird and also the Dodge Daytona. Look, these cars, when combined with the Hemi underneath the hood, were unstoppable. They were such a unique combination of massive downforce and yet low drag with their big wing in the back and the big sloped nose in the front. They were just aerodynamic beyond anything else that could even be compared. They owned the super speedways back in 69 and 70. Look, they only raced for a year and a half and were quickly outlawed. The reality is the car version of these things were not big sellers. The Plymouth Superbird, for example, was nothing other than a Roadrunner that had some modifications done to it. The original dealers couldn't move these things off their lots. I've driven one of these Superbirds once, and I can tell you that the blind spot created by the back wing and not being able to tell where the nose is when you're driving it, it's really unnerving. You feel like you're driving a big battleship is what you feel like. You can't see much, but you know you're driving something that's really awesome. But back in the 69 and 70s, people didn't want it for the streets. So what the dealerships had to do was they had to take the wing off, take the nose off, and put it back together as a Roadrunner. But today they're worth a small fortune. And if you have a Superbird with a Hemi in it, you literally own a variation of what NASCAR would call the number 1 vehicle, the most iconic vehicle, and perhaps the best performing vehicle of all time. It's the 69 through 70 Superbird and Dodge Daytona, better known as the Winged Wonders. Well, there you have it, guys. The top 5 most iconic NASCARs ever to hit a track. Look, I did a fair amount of research on this. I looked at win versus losses and longevity of the cars. And the 5 cars that I've talked about today were the 5 that struck me as being the most iconic from the best time of NASCAR. Maybe it's different than yours, and if you have a different opinion, let me know in the comments. Look, there's a lot of cars. Like I said, it was hard to whittle it down to 5, but these are the 5 that I believe are the most iconic. Guys, I appreciate you watching this video, and be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We're always adding new videos where we put on really cool parts. We go to some pretty cool car guy stuff, and we do some pretty neat product reviews that might be of interest to you if you have a classic American muscle car or a late model car or truck that you want to make stop harder, go faster, or just look better. We have a ton of restoration stuff there as well. You can go to First Place Auto Parts at fpautoparts.com. The website's open 24 hours, 7 days a week. And look, we are car people ourselves. First Place Auto Parts, we're staffed with people who really enjoy what we do. Guys, we love cars, and we know you do as well. Please check us out the next time you need parts. I appreciate you watching this video, and until next time, keep the hammer down and keep it between the guardrails.